Okay, so we're recording. Hey, Tuesday 110. I went through your lighting papers this weekend and you guys had to write some questions. And so I figured instead of me talking to you about them, that I would get Haley Haynes, who's a senior in our film program, who has had a lot of experience shooting and lighting a bunch of projects, to come in and help me answer these questions for you. Hey, Haley.
Hey, hello everyone.
So we'll just go through a few of these papers. I'm just using this iPad for this class, and I'll give you some questions. Um, so Charles is up first. He said, since sunrises are so short, can sunrise scenes be shot reverse chronologically at sunset to have the effect of a sunrise with more time allowed? Have you ever had to shoot at sunrise or sunset?
So I've never had to shoot anything where I specifically need a sunrise or a sunset, so
Okay.
I haven't come across this problem.
Have you shot
I'm
anything? Have you tried to shoot anything before, like at magic hour, at like the dusk time?
golden hour. Yeah, so I've done that before. That it didn't really go as planned because we were shooting for client group. We were shooting for Vanessa Pichet, right? That's how you say her name.
Yep.
Um, so we basically went. It was me and Ariana Rizzo, and we went to, I think it was Second Beach or something. And we were shooting basically a photographer at golden hour. It was supposed to be golden hour. It ended up being kind of cloudy until like the last half hour. Um, and we were just kind of shooting models and stuff and what they were doing. But that was my only real experience at golden hour, and we got some really like good footage and stuff. And I'm sure that if you planned it accordingly, and it depends on like your location, I guess. Because if you're trying to set something in California and you've got the sun setting like in the wrong place over the ocean, you know what I mean? Like east west coast thing. So that might get weird. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of the same lighting. I mean, you just got to know that it's going from bright to dark rather than dark to bright.
So the other thing that you brought up too, I think that in any situation where you sort of have a very limited time to get what you need, you said you had two shooters there. So I would suggest that even if it's a scene for your movie and you need it to be at a certain time, sunset, sunrise, golden hour, that you go with more than one camera so you can actually shoot more than just one thing, because you're not going to have the time to do probably three setups. So it might take two separate times with multiple setups, but I think you're probably more likely to get what you need to do it that way than trying to do it to do everything in one fell swoop.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of planning, especially when you're working with such a short amount of time. Like it's maybe what, an hour, hour and a half at the most. Like, and that's on like both in the morning and the afternoon if you got two, clear days or one clear day with, where it's clear all day. So it's tricky. You definitely need to be able to plan and schedule something and then just be able to probably go and shoot whenever and use that.
Okay, Billy is asking, is there a method to the madness behind lighting, or is it a majority trial and error?
There's definitely a little bit of trial and error, but I think that ultimately there's a method. Knowing Having the experience of lighting stuff before definitely makes it a lot easier to light stuff again. I think that everybody should definitely try to light something just so you can understand that, because no matter what you're doing, you need to have an understanding of lighting. Because if it looks terrible because there's shadows and stuff, like no matter what you are, if someone's not making those calls, like the director, the DP, or anyone, like it's gonna look bad. And so you definitely need to have some sort of method, and I think that the best way to do that is just kind of learn basics like 3-point lighting, knowing like what a key is, what a fill is, and just kind of like learning the basics about it. And just having a basic understanding definitely helps.
And what
And
about
then
you
trial
guys?
and
I
error.
think sometimes this can be seen as sort of like a hard part about filmmaking. And I think sometimes people get afraid to do it, especially if they're doing it on another project and they haven't done it before and they don't want to really mess anything up. So do you have any tips based on that about if they're sort of nervous to do it, what's the best way to start doing it as a student?
Definitely if you're nervous to start doing lighting, I know like I was definitely nervous to pick up a camera or to do anything that had any real like weight to it on a film set at first. But you definitely just need to try, and also work with someone maybe that like lighting is a great way to kind of get into it because usually it's teams like two or three. So then you can work with people that maybe have a little more experience than you, or maybe not as much, and maybe you'll be doing the teaching. But working with other people, especially on things like lighting, definitely helps to get you into it. And I think I've learned the most from lighting from actually doing it rather than like, you know, lighting shoots and stuff like that. Like when you actually go onto a student set and like try to light it to make it look really good.
Okay. What about tips on how you'd light a small interior location with no windows? How would you approach that?
Um, so I've definitely had experience with this. We've had some really tiny locations, like, bathrooms and stuff. A lot of times will not have windows. Um, and they'll be really small. So first, like getting the camera and the crew in there and lighting is really difficult. So you want to be able to like, scout the space ahead, and know what you're kind of dealing with if you can. And then probably plan to get maybe one light in there, and if you can, one light, maybe in a hallway or something since there's no windows. Um, we've definitely done stuff in the past where we've had like bathroom spaces which are really small usually, where maybe we'll have one window or maybe we'll have none. And we'll always manage to get at least one light in the bathroom regardless of how small. Like I was in a space with, I think it was me shooting with a C300 and a tripod, and so that was taking up most of the room. The two actors were coming in the bathroom trying to squeeze by. This was for Sarah Angeloni's film Parallel, and there was also Matt Meggs was in the tub, flicking the light on and off because it was supposed to be, the light turns on when they come in, they flip the switch,
Let's
and so
note
we
that the
had,
tub did not have water in it when he had the light in
yeah, no, okay, Matt was in the tub, the light was next to the tub.
there. Okay.
Matt had the switch so that the light we were using to like fill the whole space was going out with the overhead lights we were using. And then we had like one other person there too, and it was just really really tiny space. I think the slate person was in there too, like maybe under the counter. But it's like you can definitely make it work no matter, like, I've been in some small spaces. It's definitely doable, and like bathrooms and stuff where you have a lot of white walls, and if there's no windows, like odds are the wall is going to be white and it's going to be like just bland. You can use that to your advantage and really bounce the light off the walls and stuff.
So that was Josh's question. This is I don't even know whose this is. This is Chloe's question. So she was asking how to avoid unnatural shadows behind the actors without compromising how much light you have on them. Because I think that this is probably, in some of the scenes that we shoot in the house location, right? It's like the furniture is up against a wall. They're using DP lights. The lights are really harsh. So what would you suggest there?
So yeah, that's the first thing I thought of. Definitely you could cheat them out from the wall, like if possible. Pulling out from the wall helps a lot just because like being further away from that surface automatically makes that shadow softer. So that can help. And it can make it easier to kill that shadow with maybe like a fill or even your key light. So definitely I would step out from any walls. Um, that's mostly for like unnatural looking shadows because that's where you can tell like there's like a spotlight on your actors. Um, yeah, definitely just take a step back. And then there's this one other trick that I learned that I thought you guys might find useful. If you ever get like reflections on like picture frames and stuff, this is just take like gaff tape and you like put it behind the picture frame a little so it like tilts forward just a little bit, and that can change your reflections too. So that can be helpful in like small spaces, is like the question before.
Yeah, I also think that, diffusion is going to be helpful too. And this is where, when you get access to using different gear and higher end gear, that problem isn't as, I mean, you're always going to have issues and have to readjust things, but it really helps, especially with the new LED lights, that you can sort of dim the intensity of things instead of putting like an enormous amount of tough spun over the light and things of that nature too. Um,
Yeah.
so these don't have names on them. Okay. Guilherme is writing oh, this is interesting. Can the desires of a director and the capabilities of a DP come into conflict?
Um, I mean, yeah, I would say definitely. I think that if a director's expecting something from a DP that they just don't have the skill set for, and then they're getting frustrated that they can't do it, then then that's definitely can be a thing. I mean, I haven't personally really dealt with anything where a director and a DP were disagreeing, or unable to kind of see the other's vision. But in that, a lot of that also comes from like planning, and definitely like I before this horrible coronavirus canceled this semester, I had been spending a lot of time sitting down with directors, and I was going to be DPing two different projects. And so I was sitting down with directors and really just trying to understand what they wanted and how they wanted it to look, and you know resources, of movies they've seen before, and what kind of style they wanted to mimic, what kind of shots they wanted, if anything specific. And I so it's really just like communicate with your DP, especially if you're a director, and vice versa, because for you two to be on the same page is really key,
Yeah, I mean, I think
especially on these.
on student shoots, yeah. I mean, communication is key, right? And normally in these student situations, you're probably going to be working with a DP that you gel with to begin with, right?
Mhm.
So going into it knowing that what you both are trying to get out of this is really good. We used to have a problem in grad school if for those students that were really trying to boost their reel, we had to be careful because they might want us to purchase or rent special equipment so they could get a certain shot. Not that it was good for the movie, but they knew that they wanted to show they could do something and put it in their reel. So there's that type of thing that you have to look out for too. But I feel like normally, especially in this film program, I really haven't had any conflicts that way unless they were class shoots where we assign groups and like just personality wise, it was tough to get along with each other. Um,
Yeah.
Logan is asking, do people go to school to specialize in lighting for film because the amount of knowledge in that reading has melted my brain? Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on, I guess, how
um
complicated lighting can be? I mean, granted, the reading is an older reading. It's based on shooting on film where you needed a lot of light to do things. Things have gotten a little less complicated now that you can shoot under low light situations. But I think mainly the thing that remains is that you still should be thinking about how you want things to look beforehand, right? So, what about the
yeah,
complexity of things?
so it's definitely yeah, it can be, honestly, anything in this industry can be just about as complex as you want it, I think. I think that you can really go into some of the stuff in film very technically, like lighting and camera and stuff. Like you could really, you could learn how to build a light if you wanted to, and just really get into like how they work and stuff. And a lot of people do have that knowledge, and it's really helpful for them on set. But I think like if you have a passion for it, yeah, then the complexity, then go like delve into it and go for it. But like Keith was saying, like just knowing like stuff about just enough, and just kind of having a good knowledge of it is probably all you'll really need. And I'm still learning more about lighting all the time, like, um, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's, yeah, it's very complex, but I think that it can also be very simple and still be, something that's useful.
I think the hardest thing too is that, and especially this is for a lot of class shoots that I've been part of where not a lot of thought has gone into the lighting, is that we'll all get to set and they'll start setting things up and then they'll realize, well, oh, but we never thought about this space over here that's going to be, in the wide shot, we need to light this stuff in the foreground and the stuff in the background.
Mhm.
Because when we cut into close-ups on the background stuff, it has to be bright, but we don't have enough stuff to light this whole space and that whole space. One of the things I was thinking of, and again, I don't remember if you were in this class or not, is the 351 class that Sunny directed Nobleism. Were you in that class? So
No.
the location was a giant church like space, and so they wanted a very wide shot of the church to show that nobody was in the seats, and so we had to light this whole area where the seats are. And then we had to light the people that were way, way down in the back because eventually we were going to be punching into that type of thing. So it was like, how do you light this whole space? It's very vast space, a lot of windows. So during the day, it was going to be okay, but we were shooting there when it was going to get dark. So we had to duvetine everything and sort of just flood the foreground with light enough so that when we did the reverse, everything was sort of evenly lit on both sides. And so that's, I think the wider you're getting, right, the more challenging that this is going to become, because you need more equipment to light a bigger space. If you're in a smaller space, you have challenges there, right? Because it's like, how do I fit all these things in this teeny space? But also you don't need a ton of stuff because you're not lighting a huge space. So I think that's where it gets confusing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that does it for this class. So if you turn in your paper, you got your questions answered. If you haven't done your paper yet, Haley, what happens?
Bad things happen. I don't want to know.
But this, I think it's important stuff. It's like, even if you don't want to be doing lighting on sets, I think even as a director or a DP or even a script supervisor, it's like you really want to understand how this stuff works because it all connects together.
Yeah, there's not like one job on set that you shouldn't know. Like you should know all these jobs no matter what you're doing because like, you never know one if you're going to get put in that position where you have to do it, especially being a student. And two, it just helps you, especially if you want to be a director, to just know what everything, what's going on and everything. And I don't know, I think a lot of students in film are in it because they're passionate about it. So just be passionate about it and learn about all of it
All right, awesome. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
anytime.